Chapter 3, Ethics and Public Speaking. Ethics. Ethics is the branch of philosophy that involves determinations of what is right and wrong. So, why do we talk about ethics and public speaking? Consider that anytime you have the opportunity to communicate a message in front of an audience, you have a great responsibility. Every word that you have has power. It's important that every time you communicate a message, you are communicating a factual message where you have done research, you have gathered a variety of evidence, you have arguments that are well formed, that's using all the information provided to you and lead you to a very easy to follow, accurate conclusion, that you are truthful and honest and a credible communicator. It's a very special ability that you have anytime that you're able to communicate in front of an audience. And it's always important that your words are chosen very carefully and accurately. It's a concern for public speaking because we have individual, community, and democratic outcomes anytime we communicate a message to an audience. So there's sources of ethics and communication. There's legal, cultural, and religious and philosophical sources. So we know legal implications of ethics in the US come from the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech or the press. The Supreme Court has made various decisions throughout the years that further defends and clarifies freedom of speech. And there's also been typically a pretty broad interpretation that includes broader freedom of expression to be covered under the First Amendment. There is exception to free expression. Any threat to the life of the U.S. president is a limit to free expression. Any case where speech could incite violence, defamation, a false statement, a fact that damages a person's character, fame, or reputation, and communities set expectations of reasonable requirements for public safety. So, the cultural and religious sources of ethics, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So, consider this in communication. Communicate to and about others the way you would want them to communicate towards and about you. Religious text, all of these religious texts, most of the common world religions, all discussed honesty and that lying is wrong and we should do our best to be truthful to others. Community standards and family upbringing are other ways that honesty and being an ethical, truthful communicator has been reinforced to us throughout our entire lives. Philosophical sources of ethics. Plato discussed his concern for the power to mislead audiences. That's if someone is a gifted orator, they have the ability to communicate a message that is inaccurate, deceitful, but they have the ability to do it in a way that is very convincing. And he discussed the danger that can come with very polished, very powerful orators. Rhetoric is a good man speaking well. Quintilian said basically, rhetoric should be a virtuous man speaking honest words. Utilitarianism discussed that our communication, we have the responsibility to the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Pragmatism is a little different where the consequences are the judge. So we've all heard the phrase, the ends justify the means. So pragmatism would say that even if we communicate it in a way that is not completely transparent or honest, if the result of it is positive, then that would make it okay. The ends justify the means. The way you get there justifies the conclusion. And then Kant's categorical imperative proposed the idea that any behavior we engage in should be what we think everyone else on the planet should do ethically. So we should do what we feel that anyone else should do in our position. Existentialism basically says that we have free choice. We have the ability to choose our own actions. That's part of being human, but we also are responsible for our choices and the impact that they may have. And then there's equal opportunity to fully participate. Habermas, a more recent scholar, emphasizes equal opportunity for participation, meaning a big part of ethical communication is reciprocity, that the communication partners, that it's not just you or I standing up and communicating a message, it's the reciprocity and back and forth in communication. Credibility, according to Aristotle, he preached about wisdom, sagacity, and character of the speaker. And credibility today is the attitude of the audience toward the speaker based on reality and perception. So, what does the audience think of the speaker? So, sources of credibility, similarity between speaker and audience. Sometimes that's a way that an audience summarizes the credibility of a speaker. Oh, this person seems to be a lot like me. Character of the speaker. And in character basically is this someone that we trust to do and say the right thing all of the time or as much as possible? Competence of a speaker. Is this person a competent speaker? Is this someone, when listening to them, seem polished, seem professional, seem comfortable with their message, comfortable with their words? A goodwill towards speaker. Is this someone that is favorable? Is this someone that is kind? Is this someone that's likable? And things like likability, poise, appearance, and humor all are ways that people determine the credibility of a speaker. Your credibility varies from audience to audience and even within a speech. You must establish initial credibility. It's derived from your comments and establish final credibility on your topic. So, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is the act of using another person's ideas without giving credit to that person. Abraham Lincoln said the problem with quotes on the internet is that it's difficult to verify their authenticity. So, I think we would all know that Abraham Lincoln did not talk about the internet. It didn't exist at that point. So, plagiarism involves turning in someone else's work as your own, copying words or ideas without giving credit, or copying them verbatim, failing to identify a quote, giving incorrect information about the source of material. So, obviously, that's not something Abraham Lincoln would say, copying the structure of someone else's work. So, types of plagiarism: stealing, submitting someone else's work as your own, sneaking, cutting, and pasting without citing your sources, and borrowing, sources not correctly summarized or paraphrased. It's very easy to plagiarize if you're not careful. It's important that as you're gathering information and evidence, that you make sure that you are citing your sources as you go, that you're giving credit to the source that you pulled your information from, and then if you're quoting it directly, that you cite that source within the text of your outline or your paper. So, ethically crediting sources: provide full information about the source, ensure information is presented in context and relevant to your points, summarize and paraphrase correctly by putting source material into your own words. Ethics of communication, civil discourse, and venues. Various rules apply for public forums, such as debates, town hall meetings, public forums, panels, symposia. By imposing and following rules, speakers demonstrate respect for others with whom one disagrees and focus on the communication. So, anytime that you have an opportunity to be at a public forum of any kind, it's very important to be respectful, listen to others, and then be respectful if you feel the need to provide an opposing viewpoint. After reading about ethics and communication, what do you think about the most important consideration in ethical speaking? What's the second? What the third? Could the first and second and third ever come into conflict? So think about what you think are the most important things about ethical speaking, and are there times when those things come into conflict with each other? Why do you think it's so hard for students to learn to cite sources appropriately? If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. That's all for Chapter 3.